This is Wendy Hines, the director of the Fowler Center. Hey, everybody, fans of the Fowler. I've been up here for the last few days up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, at the Arts Midwest Conference, an annual conference where thousands of musicians and different acts from all over the country come to showcase their talents. And I'm scouting for acts for next year's season. But before I get on to that, I thought it would be a great chance to sit down with Jim Witter of the Piano Man, who is our first act opening our season in just over a week. So let's go talk to Jim about what it's like being the Piano Man. Well, I'm here with Jim Witter, and we are so excited to be seeing you in a matter of a week and a half now.
That's exciting.
At Fowler.
Yeah, it's our first time there. Hopefully not our last.
Well, I hope not there. And I've gotten a little taste of what's in store for us on Wednesday, and I must say, you are just a class act.
Oh, thank you.
Really enjoying it.
Thank you.
And so I thought we could talk about just a few interesting things to get our audience even more excited.
Okay.
Yes. So, if you could tell me about how you came to be such an amazing piano man.
Oh,
Hope you haven't heard that pun before.
No, amazing. I'll argue with that. I like to think of myself as more of a rock and roll player. So whenever I know there's a real pianist in the audience, I make sure they can't see my hands because I have awful technique. But I started playing the piano. It was actually when I was about 13 years old. My brother had an extra ticket to see this guy, Billy Joel, and one of his friends couldn't go, and he said, "Do you want to come to the concert?" I went, "Who's Billy Joel?" And he said,
That's my next question is, how did you get to like Billy Joel?
And well, this is how I really got into music, to be honest with you, because before then I played a little guitar, but music. I loved music, but I was never really serious about it. And I guess I was at that age where I was starting to think about what I want to do when I'm an adult. And so I went to the Billy Joel concert, not knowing what to expect at all. It was in a very intimate, this is before he really broke, it was like 1976. And it was in a really intimate little performing arts center. And I just remember coming away from that show going, that's what I want to do.
He's cool, I want to be like him.
Very, very cool. I was taken by not only his musical ability and his songwriting and his voice, but just by his stage presence and the fact that I went into that concert not knowing who he is, and at the end of it, I felt like I didn't only know his music, I knew so much about him. I felt like I could go up to him and say hi and shake his hand and have a chat, and that's what I have always tried to get into my shows, as sort of the personal interaction, and that's really how I started playing the piano. And the next day, I said to my mom, "Can you show me, some stuff on the piano?"
Was your mom a pianist?
She was, and she was self-taught. She learned. I come from a long musical family, and it was one of her uncles that sort of showed her how to play the piano. And so I remember clearly, she sat me down and said, "This is a C chord. This is an F chord. This is the G chord. You're on your own."
the three chords you need to do a lot of music.
Well, I think it was just sort of, she didn't really know what to show me. And so I remember sitting with my brother's copy of Piano Man and listening to it and really sort of letting my ear kind of take over. And it was very frustrating at first, but that's really how I learned to play the piano, just by listening.
Do you play other instruments besides piano?
Well, sort of. I play the guitar. I learned the guitar. My brother taught me how to play the guitar when I was about 11. I can sit down behind a drum set and play a little bit, and I can play a bass, and took clarinet through school, but not very good at all.
Now, what about singing? Because your voice, all your press materials call it the golden tenor, and you have an amazing voice.
Well, thank you.
Was that always there? Was it singing in the shower? How did you?
No, I really do believe. I do know that from a very early age, I just sang all the time, because I remember my brothers telling me, "Would you please just shut up for 5 minutes because I just went around the house singing all the time. And
You were going to be the musician.
I
Telltale
really do.
sign.
I really do believe in that that sort of theory that goes around about the 10,000 hour principle. Whereas if you put 10,000 hours into something, that's how you get to be really good at it. And people, will ask me. I've been asked to teach singing lessons before, and people say, "How did you learn to sing?" And how can I learn to sing? And how can I get to be a better singer? And I just tell them, you know what? It's just sing. That's all you got to do. Just all the time. Listen to your favorite artist. Practice the little licks and all that. But there's really for me, there was no real sort of, I didn't just open up my mouth and there it was. I think it took many, many years of developing from a very early age.
Now, were you a country boy or a city boy up in Canada? Canada's very big, so tell
Yes.
us more about your
Well, I was
hometown.
definitely a city boy from Hamilton, Ontario, Steel City. My dad, my brothers were all in the steel company, and I remember when I was a teenager, it was sort of a given that when your dad was a foreman at the steel company for summer job, when you were old enough, you got a job at the steel company. And
Is that some tension between you and Dad?
no, it never was actually, because although he was a steel man by trade, he had this sort of underlying artistic sense that he didn't actually even discover that until he retired and he became a watercolor painter, and he became very well known locally, and he actually had a school that he opened, and he's still alive now. He doesn't paint anymore though. He's 85, but we have a collection of his work, and so he always understood me, and he always understood, and I think it's just because he saw how passionate I was about it. I was always either singing, or I was always playing the piano or playing the guitar, or doing something musical, and so I think he knew that the steel company wasn't for me.
That's a good parent.
Very good parent.
Now, for our younger aspiring musicians, what advice can you tell them?
Oh boy, it's so hard. I find nowadays, and we talked about this a little earlier, I find nowadays there's so much emphasis on these idol shows and these singing competitions, and they scare me because I worry that there are so many young artists that could have a very, very bright future and do something that they like to do, who are being told by one person, you're never going to make it. So the first bit of advice is persistence, and you have to persist.
Good in any profession, right?
In anything where you want to be, with music and anything in the arts, it's something you just feel if you have to do it. My sister-in-law is
You don't go into it for the money.
You certainly don't.
Go in because you love it.
My sister-in-law is a pretty famous actor, and she, I remember in one of her interviews once, she hit right the nail on the head. She said, if you cannot imagine yourself doing anything else ever, then if there's a little bit of doubt, it's probably not for you. But if you can't imagine yourself doing anything else ever, that's what you're meant to do. And just, believe in yourself. That is number one, because there's going to be so many people that aren't going to believe in you.
You have to sell yourself.
You do, and there's a fine line there between being, I think being arrogant and being overconfident, but you have to know that, because when I was trying to get my first record deal, I got just rejection letter after rejection letter after rejection letter, and some of them were very hurtful, and I stayed true. I knew that in my heart this is what I was meant to do, and I'm just gonna let that stuff go in one ear and out the other.
Good for you, and we can certainly see the benefit of that.